Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown is something of a unicorn nowadays. Games which let you fly airplanes are almost extinct at this point. That's why I was excited about it. I had played Ace Combat back on the PlayStation 1 and remember it as being fun and engaging. When I found out that the latest alteration had been released on PC with great graphics, I knew I had to play it. Unfortunately, Ace Combat 7 is a bad console port. This is why I hate that most games nowadays are developed with consoles in mind and the PC is always secondary. But before I turn this video into a rant, let me actually tell you what the problems are. First and foremost, if you own an ultrawide monitor, you're gonna have a bad time. Not only does this game not support ultrawide resolutions, but it's actually hard to find a fix for it. It seems like most fixes have been removed from the internet for some reason. I don't know what happened. You could hex edit the game's exe file if you know what you're doing, but let's face it, most of us are not versed in that sort of thing and have to look for the help of benevolent modders. Luckily, I managed to find a tool which made it possible to set the game to any ultra-wide resolution you want, and it works flawlessly. It's really easy to set up too. In case anyone's having a hard time finding a fix, contact me and I will gladly forward it to you with the instruction on how to use it. Why they would not bother to enable ultra-wide here is absolutely beyond me. The game looks stunning, so much better when you have that super wide field of view. Once modified, both 21:9 and 32:9 work perfectly and the game looks amazing. The problems don't end here, however. There are some people who like playing flight simulators and own an actual flight stick. While this is not a simulation but rather an arcade game, I can imagine that it would be super fun with a flight stick. However, I neither have one, nor would I have been able to use it at launch if I did. You see, the game offered no flight stick support for the longest time. Why? Because fuck PC players, that's why. Luckily, they did see reason and implemented it with a later update after the community raised awareness. I commend them for doing so, but still think that it should have been there from the start. And not to mention that not all flight sticks are recognized. You can't use all of them, there's just some specific ones. Now let's talk about VR. It's a dream of mine to own a VR headset. I can't afford it yet, but one day I will get me one of them. Ace Combat 7 has several special missions designed with VR in mind, and from what I have read, they are stunning. You can't play the campaign in VR, but at least there are these special missions. I imagine that would be a lot of fun. However, I neither own a VR set, nor would I have been able to play this game in VR if I did, because that function is a PlayStation 4 exclusive for at least 1 year. I guess fuck PC players yet again, right? Anyway, even if you manage to get the game working in ultra-wide, you manage to be one of the lucky few who own the correct flight stick which is supported by the game, because as I've said already, many still aren't, and can live past the missing VR missions, you will soon notice that the buildings and trees in the distance are popping out of nowhere. You can't see them when you look far. That's due to the extremely low draw distance to which the game is set. There is no official setting to increase that because consoles are in essence potato PCs and they can't handle this kind of setting. But if you have a decent mid-range gaming PC, your PC can definitely handle them. So off you go to the internet to look for a fix for that too. Luckily, this one's easily fixed by adding a few lines in one of the game's files. It's really a simple fix. So now you have modified the game several times and have applied all the patches, you are finally ready to start playing. Let me just mention that this is a full price game. You pay $60 for this and then have to research and fix several things. Anyway, once the game actually starts, it is playing the way you want it after you have set it up. Then it is actually a great game. You get to choose between two types of controls, one of which is designed for more advanced players, and the other one is a slightly better flight simulation while it is less arcadey at the same time. So you have these two options, more arcadey or less arcadey and more simulation-y, if you can say it that way. The graphics are awesome, the planes are detailed, and even the ground looks very nice. You play missions during the day and at night, and it's so satisfying to kick ass while soaring through the skies. What surprised me was that the game has its own story, which is to some extent connected to that of most other Ace Combat games. While the planes which you can fly are all real, the game world is purely fictional. The problem here is that the locations or countries in which we fly are all similarly named. The story is following an ace pilot who is a rookie at the first and is flying for the Ocean country. Due to an unfortunate accident early on in the game, he is court-martialed and sent to prison. However, since there is a war going on, he and the other imprisoned pilots are forced to fly once more as part of the spare squad. They are effectively supposed to be the ones who do the worst jobs with minimal support and highest death rate. While on these suicide missions, we are introduced to the other prisoners in our squad. The great thing in this game is that there are lots of cutscenes between missions, as well as lots of recorded dialogues during the missions. This makes flying as a team feel real and is very charming. The guys and girls are constantly in contact, and you can really feel how the battle is going based on their conversations. The only problem is that you are focused on flying and chasing enemies and will often not pay much attention to what is being said, which is kind of sad because it's pretty good. It gets more problematic when you miss one of the transmissions where one of your colleagues or your leader gives you a new objective and explains what that is. And you, as I've mentioned, are focused on something else so you miss it. And that happens quite a bit. At least it happened to me. As for the actual story, it's convoluted and really bad. It's true that I did not expect a story at all, so anything is better than nothing, but the problem here is that it's so confusing that you will probably not be able to follow even if you tried. I did mention the similarly named countries. Let me give you a taste. In this game you will hear three names the most: Usia, Osia, and Erusia. So as you can see, okay, they actually say Uja. The Usia is pronounced Uja, but I intentionally pronounced it this way because I want you to hear how it's written, because you see it in the subtitles as well. But even Usha and Osha sound very similar. I swear to you, I managed to figure out which one I'm fighting for at the end of the game. I had to try really hard. Later I checked on Wiki and it turns out that Osia is the continent on which the country of Usia is located, or Uja. Erusia, or Erusia, whatever you like, is the enemy country, but they sound so similar. And this is so confusing. Why? The game is developed by a Japanese developer, and that explains somewhat why the story reminds me of that of Metal Gear Solid, in a way. I know many will not agree with me, but I find those stories to be convoluted and bad as well. The Japanese have no army, and it seems like their ideas of world conflict are always very anime-like. One character in the story has 14 names. His full name is comprised of 14 individual words, 14 names. That's something I have only seen in anime, and I've always found it to be idiotic. I think they think that having a ton of names is like a royal thing. It shows that you're aristocracy or something. I do not know, but it sounds so stupid. And how does it contribute to the game to tell me, they talk about it and then they say this is, William, James, Baxter, and whatnot, just give like 100 names, 14 to be exact. This might be me, but I did not like the story and I did not like the main character as much. But out of all the characters, I dislike our protagonist the most. The reason for that is simple: he's silent. Our guy is called Trigger. He never speaks. He does not answer questions when he's directly answered over the, radio. He doesn't even reply when told to confirm something. He has no opinion, he has no character, nothing. It's absolutely awful. I detest silent protagonists. I mean, just to give you a taste, at some point, all the pilots are supposed to confirm that their aircrafts are ready, and you hear them one after another in your whole squadron. They're like Mage 1 ready, this one ready, they say their code names and they say they're ready. Our guy doesn't say anything because, silent dude. At one point, another character is like, Trigger, please respond. Trigger, are you there? Of course, Trigger doesn't say anything because Trigger can't talk. Trigger can't do anything. But enough about the terrible story. Let's talk about the gameplay. As you do missions, you make points with each target you destroy. With those points, you can buy upgrades for your planes, new weapon systems, and even new planes altogether. This is very rewarding, and I feel like the missions will usually give you a lot more targets than you need to take down in order to actually complete them. This way you can rack up additional points as you get better. The missions themselves are varied and offer different settings and tasks. You get to attack ground and aerial targets, you get to sneak by flying into the clouds or through a canyon, you get to chase a rocket before it leaves the atmosphere, and you get to escort other vehicles on the ground as well as in the skies. This variety of missions and objectives really helps spice things up and prevents you from getting bored. The only reason why I didn't play through this game in one sitting is because I didn't have a whole day which I could dedicate to playing it. In addition to the missions, you also have your takeoff, landing, and refueling sequences. Those are short but still add to the feeling of being the pilot of an actual jet, and it's really cool. Something that I had realized very late in the game is that you can, in case you run out of ammunition, actually return to base and land so that you can have your fighter jet repaired, restock on ammo, etc. That sucks, especially because I failed in a few missions which I would have not if I had known of this feature. The problem here is that the game never really teaches you this. You just hear a short transmission in between the many conversations where you are told that you can return for repairs, refueling, and rearming if you need to. But since fuel is not a factor in this game, I simply assumed that it was a game's way of role-playing, but that this was not really an option. To be fair, I still consider this more my fault than the game's fault, but still, it feels a little bit like the game could have done a better job at teaching me this. I was surprised to find out that this game also features boss enemies which you will get to engage in a dogfight with. It's fun and challenging as hell, especially because the bosses will usually have a huge technological advantage over you. I struggled with some missions for a while because they can be quite challenging, and also because the missions tend to only have 1 or 2 checkpoints. Although a single mission can easily last over half an hour, so if you are unlucky you might have to replay the last 15 to 20 minutes again, which can be a real pain sometimes. What kept me going was also the game's music. It's very energetic and somehow fitting. While the game is not really a simulator, it still gives you the feeling of flying, and even features mechanics such as hiding in the clouds from incoming missiles and having your wings freeze if you stay too long in said clouds. You can also stall your jet if you fly too slowly, which, similarly to having your wings freeze up, can lead to loss of control. And you can of course try to fly into outer space, only to find out that at about 11,000 kilometers your jet reaches its limits. But you can still see the horizon, and it's just glorious. To summarize, Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown is a shitty console port, but once you fix most of its problems, the game is awesome. The story is bad, we have a silent protagonist, but those things hardly matter when the environments look gorgeous, the combat is fun, the variety of places you can fly in is huge, so is the weaponry that you can use. It's just a great game with some problems which stem mostly from its console first attitude, and although I'm super fed up with these things, I still can't help but recommend this game to everyone. As promised, if you need any help with the Ultrawide fix, etc., let me know and I will assist you. Such games are rare and I want there to be more of them. Perhaps the next one will be even better and have less problems. Only time will tell, but until then, give this one a shot, it's worth it. Oh yeah, before you go, allow me to thank you for watching my video. I really appreciate it and hope that it was informative and entertaining. If you want to support my channel, my Patreon link is in the description of this video. In any case, thank you again and have a great day.